Good morning, I'm Paul,
And I'm Wyatt.
and this is Father Son 49ers Talk. How you doing, Wyatt?
Good. How about you?
Doing good. Had a really busy week and a bunch of homework. I'm just getting a little bit, I need more hours in the day.
I get that feeling sometimes.
Yeah. So, how is, well, I'm going to edit all that out. It's okay, bud. Anyways, we're obviously here to talk about the loss to the Giants and a couple other things. You know, the 49ers in a whole. We're not playing this week. This is our bye week, so we don't have anything to talk about for upcoming games. But what do you think about the game we had against the Giants?
I thought we played well. There's just, a few things that need to happen that didn't. But overall, I think we played well.
Yeah, I think we played well, not well enough to win. And that's kind of one of those topics we're going to get into. Well, let's do it right now, actually. I was going to break down the points, like how many points we're scoring per game, how many points we're allowing, and that kind of stuff. But with the Giants game itself, it was, as the Better Rivals podcast likes to talk about, the elegant tank, right? So we're elegantly losing this game. And it's a little bit frustrating, but when it happens, you know, at least we're in the game. I enjoyed watching the game, and I had fun with it. We weren't getting destroyed, but we obviously didn't win. And the only thing you can do as a 49ers fan is just be grateful that we're somewhat competitive with our third-string running back, our third-string quarterback, our backup running backs, and all the injuries that we've had on this team, that we're still at least competing and we're not just getting blown out every week. And that we are going to have a better pick. Hopefully, it looks like we're competing for the second pick overall, because I don't think that anybody's going to beat the Raiders this year for the number one pick. But, you know, we can hope that they trade Derek Carr and go after a quarterback so we can take the best non-quarterback player.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so tell me, what were your thoughts about the game? So what are some things you noticed? What would you like to have seen? What were you excited to see?
What I would like to have seen is, I would like to see, like, there's a few times in the red zone we just couldn't stop them. Like, have our back to the goal line. I would like to see a stop there.
And the Better Rivals podcast kind of broke that down and talked about some of the formation stuff and some of the breakdowns we have in defense. And overall, we're really not that bad of a defense when you look at DVOA. With DVOA right now, we're ranked as, I think, the 18th offense overall, which really isn't horrible. I mean, that's middle of the pack. But it doesn't feel like we have a middle of the pack defense, does it?
No, it does not at all.
Yeah, no. And a lot of that's due to just, there's 3 or 4 plays every single game where it seems like the defense just doesn't understand what's happening. And this happened this week where Ahkello Witherspoon appeared to expect that he had support with the safeties behind him, and they had that long pass, and it was caught, and then he threw his hands up, and Kyle Shanahan said, you know, we need to not show emotions on the field like that and that kind of stuff. But plays like that happen 3 or 4 times a week. And honestly, those are the plays that are costing us the game, because our offense really isn't doing bad. I mean, Nick Mullins, I know the Mullins mania and all that stuff going on, but he's a limited quarterback. He doesn't have the arm strength, and he does really well when he is safe in his pocket and he is passing, 10 yards or shorter. But you get any pressure in front of him, and his accuracy and his completion rate significantly drops. Well, his play in general significantly drops. Well, he is a competent quarterback, but the offense is still scoring points. And that's a testament, I believe, and as many people believe, to Kyle Shanahan. Kyle Shanahan is what is keeping this team competitive on the offensive side. And I'm going to tell you these points right here. So points scored per game for the 49ers. Right now, we're scoring an average of 23 points per game. And that puts us at 18th overall. However, our defense is allowing 26.6 points per game on average. And that puts us at 27th overall. And as anybody can tell, let's see, Wyatt, you tutor students in math, right?
Yeah.
So if you were scoring 23 points per game and allowing 26 points per game on average, what does that equal?
A win?
No, a loss.
I know.
Negative 3.6 points per game is essentially what we're losing by.
Losing slightly.
Yeah, losing slightly. The elegant tank, shall we say, right?
Yeah. Except for, unintentional elegant tank.
I mean, obviously, unintentional elegant tank, yeah. But, it is what it is. Here are the teams that we are scoring better than. Oh, let me get to the other chart right here. The teams that we're scoring better than. At 19th, at 22.8 points per game, you have Denver. Well, that's pretty good. Okay, We're outscoring Denver. And then you have 22.4 points. That is Detroit at 20th.
Okay.
I think this is going to be a surprise to you. They're scoring on average 22 points per game. Just take a guess at 21st. Let's see. Let me read off some of the teams that are before that. So first you have New Orleans. Second you have Kansas City. Third you have the Rams, Pittsburgh, Chicago, Indianapolis, New England, Atlanta, Carolina, LA, Cincinnati, Tampa Bay, Green Bay, Seattle, Minnesota, Houston, Baltimore, us, Denver, Detroit. Now, who do you think is the 21st?
Did you say the defending Super Bowl champions?
I did not.
Yeah, that's exactly who it is.
Yeah, it's the Philadelphia Eagles at 21st.
I've watched them play, and I wouldn't be surprised. It doesn't surprise me at all.
Man, that just goes to show, the Philadelphia players were talking all kinds of smack about how they don't have any fun in New England, and they're not, nobody wants to play for them, and they should, the Eagles are the best team in the history to ever play any sport ever in the world, right? And New England, I mean, they've been a dominant franchise, the dominant franchise for almost 20 years now, which is unprecedented because when you talk dynasty, there was no other dynasty besides the 49ers. Well, New England is there now. They are that dynasty, and they have been for a long time, and they've been consistently good over time. It's like that one guy who gets a lucky knockout punch on like the world champion boxer that's undefeated, and then he starts talking smack like he's the greatest ever. Well, okay, you were getting your butt kicked the entire match, and then you threw a punch and you got him. But does that mean that you're a better fighter? No, it means you threw a good punch at the time, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're a better overall fighter. So I think that it's kind of clear right now that Philadelphia is not exactly the better franchise than New England. Maybe they were the better team that day, but not the better franchise. So 21st is Philadelphia. That's pretty crazy. And right underneath 21st, so this is kind of funny, right? Is the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah.
Yeah. You had the Super Bowl champions and the
Browns.
Yeah, and the winless team side by side.
Yeah. It's kind of funny to me.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy when you think about that, right? That you got the Super Bowl champions and then the winless team side by side and points scored per game. The New York Jets, Dallas, Miami, New York Giants, Washington, Tennessee, Jacksonville, Oakland, Arizona, and Buffalo. Well, I mean, when you look at some of those teams, I mean, we're scoring better than, obviously Philadelphia, Denver. We're going through here. Who else? Tennessee, Washington. I mean, these are decent teams. These aren't horrible teams. And we're scoring more points per game. But obviously, it's not converting into wins. And that's because our defense, like you said, they're playing well, but they're not playing great. They're missing something. And I think it's those 4 or 5 plays a game where there's just mental lapses. And I don't know if it's coaching. We're going to talk about some concerns we have here in just a little bit. But so that is, like you said, we would have liked to have seen them get a little bit more firm in the red zone, and it kind of translates into just a few of those plays. If we could just kind of bring that in together, I don't think we would be where we are with our record right now.
Yeah, I agree. But yeah, time I'll edit this, Dad. But sorry if my mic keeps going off. My internet's like kicking in and out, so I can still talk, but my mic's gonna go in and off.
Oh yeah, that hasn't been an issue. I haven't noticed anything yet.
Okay.
So that's good. But we go through, and with the game we're talking about with Shanahan, it's very clear that he's keeping us in the game. His schemes, his game plan. He's allowing Nick Mullins to look like a decent, competent backup quarterback. He was also allowing. Sorry, Mom just sent a message. But there's a lot of stuff to be excited about too. So we're going to keep on talking about the game for right now, and let's talk about the matchup. Right, you have not Peyton Manning. Sorry, you have Eli Manning, the potential Hall of Fame quarterback. Is he a Hall of? Do you think Eli Manning's a Hall of Famer?
No.
You don't?
I don't think so.
Oh man, yeah, I don't know that I do either. Actually, you don't want to throw shade on people, and just in general talking about people bad. But
I just don't think Eli Manning's done enough.
The really interesting thing that I read this week and heard is that Eli Manning doesn't have a Super Bowl or doesn't have a playoff win outside of his 2 Super Bowl seasons.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know that, but
yeah, he's been to the playoffs, but he's never won a playoff game outside of those 2 seasons.
Wow, it's kind of surprising.
Right, I agree. It's kind of surprising. Okay, so let's talk about the offensive weapons that were in this game. And the first, we're going to talk about the quarterback play. So the quarterback play, you have, we'll talk about the weapons in general. You have Eli Manning and Mullins, right? Yeah. Eli Manning versus Mullins, like the changing of the guard, the Hall of Famer versus the up and comer, right?
Well, yeah.
No. What is interesting though is they showed a picture of Mullins with Eli Manning at the Peyton Manning quarterback passing camp. So that was pretty cool before the game. And then you have Barkley versus Breida and Odell Beckham versus the 49ers receiving corps. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
That's the way to put it.
I actually have it put down just a little bit different. I'll show you here in just a little bit. But so Manning's versus Mullins right here. Manning attempted 31 passes, completed 19 for 118 yards, 188 yards. Mullins had 39 for 27 for 250 yards. So Mullins won. I mean, he won that right there. Easily. As far as the completions. He did have the interceptions, and Eli Manning did not. So there's that. But, I mean, you look at this, and we're going to talk about this just a little bit because you're a pretty big Barkley fan, right?
Yes, I love Barkley.
I do too. I think Barkley's a really good running back. I really do. Okay, so now let's talk about Barkley. So would you rather have Barkley or Matt Breida?
I mean, on our team, I'd rather have Barkley. I'm sorry. I just really like Barkley. I really do.
And Barkley's a good player. He's a good player, right? Yeah. But here's the difference. With Barkley ran for let me pull this up. It's down here. Where is it at? Saquon Barkley, 20 attempts. How many yards do you think he got out of 20 attempts?
20 attempts?
Yep.
I don't know. 60, 70, 80 maybe.
Oh, you said 60, 70, 80. It was 67.
Okay.
But that's a full workload. 20 attempts, that's a full workload with 3.4 yards per average. That's not very good.
No, I'm just taking into account that our run game has been pretty good. Our defense has been stopping the run decently.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why I took it. That's why I said 60, 70, 80. I was expecting more towards the 80 range, but.
Now look at this. Matt Breida, 17 attempts for 101 yards.
Wow. So Barkley got outplayed.
But that's the point. Matt Breida, the 49ers have had two separate undrafted free agents, running backs, that have had the most yards per carry in the NFL. And if Breida wouldn't have, he's been getting banged up, so obviously he has some durability issues. But if he was available for every single game, he might be in the competition for the most rushing yards for the season so far. So Breida has really been playing well. And the two undrafted free agents we've had that had the most yards per carry are Breida, of course, and Mostert.
Yeah, I mean, I knew that one, but
yeah. And I mean, I cannot wait to see Matt Breida and Jerick McKinnon in the backfield.
Yes, I can't wait either.
Man, this offseason was it was a lot of fun watching some stuff, that kind of thing. But this offseason coming up, I'm going to be, I think, even more excited for this coming offseason. And it's going to take forever to get here. It's like, come on, please just, please, can we just fast forward to next September? Would that be okay?
Yeah, can we just fast forward from now to then?
Yeah, I like that. Now, Odell Beckham Jr. Now, I'm not going to make any huge, bold predictions, but let's say Odell Beckham Jr. versus the 49ers leading pass catcher. Who do you think the 49ers leading pass catcher in this game was?
George Kittle.
Oh, that wasn't even a hard one, right?
No.
Not even a hard one.
I was getting ready to say when you were saying Odell versus the 49ers receiving core, I was about to say Odell versus George Kittle.
Yep, that's exactly what I have written down. Odell versus Kittle. And Odell Beckham had 11 targets and 4 receptions. That's a really crazy number right there. That I find that kind of hard. He had that one really big drop pass like right in the beginning after they were talking about how many drops the Giants have had. But then also you had right here 73 yards. So 11 targets, 4 receptions, 73 yards. And then for Kittle, he had 10 targets, 9 receptions for 83 yards.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember watching the drop pass. I think that maybe should have been a caught pass, but.
Oh, that first one? That went right through his hands. That was like at his chest.
Yeah.
But anyways, there was a couple. Now for the Niners pass catching, we have 10 targets, 9 receptions for Kittle. Goodwin had 5 of 4 for 69 yards. That's not a bad stat line there.
No, it's not.
Yep. Kendrick Bourne, 6 for 4, 33. Pettis. Go ahead.
Okay. You said Kendrick Bourne. And this is not really on the stat line, but Kendrick Bourne has really been playing well for what the role he takes on the team. He's really been playing quite well.
Yeah, absolutely, he has been. And it's definitely interesting because Kendrick Bourne was kind of those. There's some really big believers in Kendrick Bourne, and if I remember right, I'm trying to pull this out. I'm pretty sure that Kendrick Bourne was one of the receivers that Kyle Shanahan really believed in and brought in because he's smart. He can run routes, which is what Shanahan likes. He doesn't really like the big giant receivers. Obviously, he likes the guys that can run routes. They're agile and they know they have a full route tree essentially.
Yeah, they aren't like stopped at so many routes.
Yeah. Now Dante Pettis, 6 for 4, 12 yards. Man, I just don't know what to think about him. I do. There's still hope. Obviously, he's had kind of a rough year. And hopefully he puts it together because I really want to see Dante Pettis do well. Then we have Matt Breida, 4 for 3, 31 yards. That's awesome. We're getting our running back into the game. Juszczyk, 2 for 2. And then Trent Taylor, 1 for 1 for 12 yards. Now, Trent Taylor's been a little bit of a disappointment because he was the guy we brought in last year, undrafted guy, played really well, and was slotted as the number 3 coming into the year. And he just hasn't really had a great year.
Yeah.
Now, that brings into question. That's the game. I mean, essentially, that's the game. We can break down the plays. We're not going to do that. We didn't win the game. We lost it. We talked about the 3 games that we had coming up that were the 1-win teams before we played the Cardinals. And was it the Cardinals? It was the Cardinals, Giants, Cardinals, Raiders, and Giants, and they were all 1-win teams right before we played the Cardinals at that time.
Yeah.
And oh no, there were 3 teams. It was us, the Giants, and the Raiders. And we really thought that we were going to win against the Cardinals, the Cardinals, Raiders, and we're going to lose the Giants. Well, obviously we lost to the Cardinals. We got swept by the Cardinals this year. That's absolutely horrible. And then we beat the Raiders, which was awesome. But I think the Raiders have a lot more issues than anybody predicted. And then we lost again to the Giants. Now, we kind of thought we were going to lose the Giants in the beginning, but I really thought we were going to win it coming into this game.
The Giants, I thought would be a hard one, but I thought we could take the Raiders and Cardinals. I really did.
Yeah. Well, that is the game. But in the end, I mean, what I take away is that our offense is performing, but our defense is struggling.
Yeah. Yes, that's really been the story of these games.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's talk about some good and bad. So what have you watched this year that you're excited about for the Niners? What are some wins, some successes?
Well, a success for me is the obvious one, George Kittle. That's I don't know, my favorite one out of the entire team.
Yeah, go ahead. Tell me about it.
So, George Kittle, being an Iowa fan, it's just amazing to see George Kittle come out and do what he's doing. It's just, I don't know, he's playing out of his mind.
Yeah, he was that 5th-round draft pick, and if he was to come out now, he would be a clear first round talent coming out of Iowa. Yeah. And it's kind of interesting because he wasn't a pass catcher in Iowa. I mean, he caught a couple balls here and there, but that's one of the reasons why he went in the 5th round. He was a talented blocker. He was seen as more of a blocking tight end and less of a receiver. And that clearly has kind of turned around. I really think that right now it's Kelce and Kittle are the 2 top tight ends in the league right now.
Well, I mean, there's Ertz, which is leading with receptions.
Yeah, he's leading with receptions. So the 3 tight ends, I believe, that are leading their team in receptions are Ertz, Travis Kelce, and Kittle. Is Travis Kelce leading his team in reception yards?
I'm pretty sure he is.
I think he is. That's a little hard to believe when you look at their wide receiver core. I'd have to verify that. But anyways, I mean, Kittle's leading us, and Ertz is leading them. And I could see Ertz, but the difference between Ertz and the difference between Kittle and Ertz and Travis Kelce is that Kittle is a true all-around tight end. He can block, he can catch, he is doing all of it. There was a play I watched where Kittle literally drove this dude like 20 yards down the field and then ground him into the ground at the end. I mean, it was really impressive. So Kittle, I had him as my number 3. So my number 1 success this year is I really think that Kyle Shanahan has done a good job.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, he is, to me, the guy that we want to keep. There's people are talking. There have been some people say, "Oh, he's in the hot seat and he's all that." No. Kyle Shanahan. That would be. I was so frustrated when we got rid of Harbaugh. I was so upset when we got rid of Harbaugh. But if we got rid of Kyle Shanahan, I would lose my mind.
I'd be pretty upset.
Yeah, we give him some time. He's a young coach. He's doing a good job on offense.
He's keeping us in games, but our defense isn't.
Now, I do have some concerns, and we're going to talk about some of the concerns here in just a little bit. So that's my number one is Kyle Shanahan. So what else do you have? So yours was Kittle. What's your next?
My number two would be Shanahan would be number 3 for me. But number 2 would come in probably Richard Sherman.
Oh, yeah. I like that. I didn't have him in my top 3, but I like that one. Okay. So Sherman.
I didn't expect him to come out and be locked down like he is, honestly. I was reading a couple articles on that, and it was surprising outbursts. It was like the top 10 surprising outbursts of the season. And Richard Sherman snuck in there at 6 because, I don't know, I didn't expect a 30-year-old kind of losing his edge to go out and do what he's doing. He is playing phenomenal.
Yeah, I don't know if I really thought that was a surprise or not. I don't know.
I was surprised. I really was. I thought he was going to be good. I just didn't think he was going to be Sherman.
Yeah, he's obviously playing well, right? I mean, he's doing his thing. So we'll see what happens next year. But one of the things that we're going to talk about is the secondary kind of in general. But yeah, Richard Sherman, that's awesome. So my second win this year is the offensive line.
Oh, that wouldn't be in my top 3, but yeah.
Yeah, the offensive line. They may be my number 1. I am just so excited to see how they are doing. Weston Richburg, he's the center. He was kind of the big guy that we were like, oh, I hope he's going to do well. But he's been average. He hasn't been great. But McGlinchey, wow. McGlinchey has been killing it. He was the right pick.
Yes, he was worth that first pick in the draft.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I think that he was definitely the right pick at the time for the 49ers. Now, our second round pick, I think that we could have done a little bit better with. But in general, I really like how McGlinchey is looking at how the offensive line is coming together. I mean, it's pretty much plug and play, whatever running back you want to put in for the 49ers right now. And that's largely due to, I would say there's 2 factors. One is the play calling for Kyle Shanahan. His offensive scheme has always been beneficial or advantageous for running backs. And then the second factor is the offensive line.
Yeah.
Okay, so then you're number 3.
It'd be Kyle Shanahan, but I mean that would be the one I had slotted as 3. But honestly, I wasn't thinking offensive line when I did this, but I think offensive line. I'm gonna have to slide offensive line in there.
Yeah. So you think Shanahan's 4th?
I don't know. I think they're both 3rd. Is that an answer?
That's funny.
How about we just leave them all at? We leave Kittle at 1 because I love Kittle, and I love the way he's been playing, and then leave the other ones just tied for second place. Is that all right?
I'm down with that. Okay, I'll give you the extra one. I'll let you include Shanahan in the offensive line.
That's my order: 1, 2, and I'll have to come up with some 3.
Well, you do. You have 3. You have offense. You have Kyle Shanahan in the offensive line.
Well, that's also tied for second with Sherman.
Yeah. Sherman. So for me, I had Kyle Shanahan, offensive line, and then Kittle. That was those were my 3 successes this year, and I obviously bought in hard on Kittle. I have him in every single one of my fantasy leagues, and I'm starting my dynasty league I'm in. I got an offer for a 1st and a 3rd round for Kittle. So that was, that's not going to happen. I'm not going to trade him at all. Okay, so your 3 disappointments for the year. So what's your first one?
Dante Pettis.
Yeah, I like it.
He's sliding in there kind of high, but yeah, Dante Pettis.
Dante Pettis. So go ahead and tell me about it. Like, what's been disappointing for you?
I don't know. I just really liked him coming out of the draft, and I mean, dealing injury and just not performing. He hasn't done what we want him to. I mean, our second round pick. I just don't know.
Yeah, I agree. He's been hurt, but he's had his chances to step in and shine, and he hasn't quite done it yet. Now, sometimes it takes 2 or 3 years. They used to say that it was the third year was the breakout year for wide receivers. Now we've come to expect it a little bit earlier, largely due to the Odell Beckham draft class, because there were a few wide receivers that kind of came out and hit that first year for that. So I mean, give him a couple more years and let's see him develop. And 3 or 4 years in, if he's still not performing, then we can decide that maybe that wasn't the pick. Okay, my number one disappointment for the year, and I think you're gonna smack yourself in the face when you hear this, because I think this is probably yours as well. Jimmy G.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and not necessarily him, but just that we didn't get to see him. I mean, we got like a taste, and it was a little bit sour, a little bit, because it wasn't quite what we were wanting. We wanted to see him come out and light the world on fire and do that kind of stuff, and that didn't quite happen. But he was playing well, and we really wanted to kind of get the rust knocked off this year, go through those growing pains, and we weren't able to see the development of Jimmy Garoppolo. He's not there yet. He's not at that number one quarterback, the top 5 yet. And I think he has the ability to be top 5. I really do. But he has the development. He has everything that he needs at the moment. He has the arm talent. He has the ability to read defenses. He's had the time to develop as a quarterback with the right coaching. The only thing that he really doesn't have is gameplay. He doesn't have time on the field, and that's what this year was supposed to be about. So unfortunately, it may delay the 49ers and Jimmy Garoppolo a year in their development due to the fact that he just wasn't able to develop this year.
Yeah, I expected a few bumps in the road, but I expected it to be a decent season with Jimmy G leading the pack. But man, it's just it's a disappointment in the air.
Yeah, it's been frustrating. Okay, what's your second?
I guess mine would be Jimmy G. Yeah, that was my second. But can I get in my number 3?
Okay, go.
So, sorry, this one's going to surprise you, I think. But maybe not. I expected more out of Witherspoon.
No, that doesn't surprise me at all. Now, there is some interesting commentary behind that, but you go ahead and tell me about why Witherspoon is in your top 3 disappointments.
I just don't know. I kind of liked him. I believed in him. I believed he could be a decent corner. But he's coming out. He's not playing very well. I mean, he's getting burned over the top a lot. He was playing with an ankle injury. I'm pretty sure he's over that now.
Yeah, he had a couple of rough games for sure, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's over that. You're still seeing what you saw with the ankle injury.
Kind of, yeah. Now, of course, we talked about this a little bit, and the Better Rivals talked about Witherspoon a little bit as well, and I kind of like the argument that they had about it. They didn't really take a side one way or another on the Witherspoon argument, but what they did say is that we've seen several plays where Witherspoon got beat over the top, and he was looking around, throwing his hands up like he was expecting somebody behind him. Now, that brings a couple things into question. And just so you know, we can kind of talk about this in general, because my second disappointment for the year is the secondary.
Oh, the secondary as a whole. Yeah. Yeah,
the secondary as a whole. Now, as we're saying with Witherspoon, it kind of brings a couple things into question with those plays. When you look and he clearly is looking around like, where is my help over the top? Where is it at? And that is, is it Witherspoon that's making the mistakes, or is it the safeties? Yeah. So is it that Witherspoon is the one that has the scheme down and he's the one putting it together and he understands what's happening? Or is it the safeties that just aren't putting it together? Is it what are we seeing? Are we seeing Witherspoon develop with his understanding of the scheme, but the rest of the team around him, the rest of the secondary struggling? Or is it the opposite? I really don't know. I mean, the only people that probably actually do know are going to be the coaches who know the scheme and know the play calls.
Yeah. You'd have to hear the coaches say it firsthand to know.
Yeah, but our secondary really, I mean, it has been a disappointment, and that's one of the kind of bright sides. Now, we talked about that a little bit before the season started, which is that we had a bunch of new people coming in. Not new, but we had some up-and-coming developmental talent. And every single one of them had to hit in order for the secondary to be good. And we have the one thing that really has been successful that was a reach, which, I mean, a semi-reach, was Sherman.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Sherman's done well, but the rest of the secondary has been less than impressive. So that is, I'm actually going to go 4 because... but then my third one kind of goes in line with your number 1. My third has been the wide receiver core in general.
Yeah. The only reason I didn't say wide receiver core in general is because I expected more than we're getting, but I just didn't expect all that much. Like, I liked it, but I knew coming into the season we didn't have a true number 1.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of thought the Goodwin was going to do better, though.
Yeah, I thought Goodwin would do better. I just didn't know if he was going to be a number 1.
Okay, yeah.
I figured he was going to be a high-end number 2.
I get that, or like a 1B.
Yeah, like a 1B.
You know, 1B. But we didn't have an actual 1. We knew that coming into the season. But we did think that the combined talent was going to overtake it. So let's kind of try to go back to the beginning of the season. We're looking at it. Now, there's Pierre Garçon, and we're like, okay, Pierre Garçon, he's the savvy veteran. He was slotted as the number 1.
Yeah.
Some people thought Goodwin was the number 1, but Pierre was the number 1. And he just has fallen completely off the radar. He kind of stepped back in with Mullins. Mullins kind of revitalized him a little bit, but he has not had a good season. Then Marquise Goodwin. He hasn't played to the same level as we expected. He's fast. He is 100%, that talent you want on the outside, going over the top that people fear, and he's shown that he can catch, which is good, which is what he had issues at Buffalo. And he's doing good. I mean, he really is. But then you have Trent Taylor, who had a phenomenal breakout year last year, who just hasn't done much. And then on top of that, you have Dante Pettis, which was kind of the last, piece that you were kind of hoping to see really break out, and he just hasn't done it. He's kind of been struggling just in general with all of the different stuff going on. What is that in the background? Is that your dog?
Coughing up his... I don't know. It has a cough.
That is funny. But yeah, so I think the wide receiver core in general has just been a disappointment. Yeah. I know that we kind of went through, you kind of jumped to your third one. Did you have one more?
Not really.
Okay, my last one. This is my fourth one. And this one might actually, it kind of ties into number 2. So it's kind of like a 2 Bravo, which is just there's some talent scouting issues for the defense. I don't know what's going on with the defense, but it just is not. There's something that is happening that I'm just not really sure what's going on. I mean, you look at Malcolm Smith, when the 49ers came in with this new regime, the big defensive signing, like the guy they brought in was Malcolm Smith, and he just is not good. He's not playing well. And I don't know why they thought that he was going to play well. He didn't play well for the Raiders. And I never believed in that pickup. Then, with Witherspoon, we still don't know what's happening there, if he's going to be the guy that we want him to be. But then on top of that, now we have the whole Solomon Thomas. Are you okay?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I'm plugged up.
Yeah. But so, we have, Malcolm Smith, the kill Witherspoon. We'll see what happens. I still kind of believe in Witherspoon. And then you have the Solomon Thomas. And then on top of that, where we're putting these guys and how we're using the talent, putting them in positions where they're not successful, like Solomon Thomas, and using them on the edge instead of letting him just play in the center where he was successful in college. I get they drafted him. They're like, if he hits on the outside, he's going to be more impactful. But he's not that guy. It's very clear. Everybody that's watched him play knows he's not an edge rusher. But we still continue to put him there, and that is frustrating. And that leads me to think that we have issues with talent assessment on the defense.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree. 100%.
But yeah, so that's what I had to talk about. Just to recap, we talked a little bit about the Giants game and how we thought we were going to win, or we would have hoped that we would have won, but we didn't. Breida is a really huge. Oh, and so that should have been in our, at least something going on in there. Breida within our running back core, or our running back core in general. That kind of goes with the offensive line. I had number 2, the offensive line, but Breida and the offense going on. That's definitely a bright side. And so we had the whole talked about the Eli Manning versus Mullins, Barkley versus Breida, Beckham versus Kittle, and then we talked about just some of the good things. And I know we spent quite a bit of time on the bad. And that's kind of indicative of our record and why we spent so much more time talking about that as opposed to the good. I think that we're going to be a good team next year. I really hope that it comes together. There's going to be a couple key things that have to happen. And, the big one is Jimmy Garoppolo has to come in and play. That he has to be on the field in order for this team to progress. The second is that I think the next biggest issue that the Niners have to overcome next year is defensive talent recruitment. We have to bring players in that can play. We have to stop bringing in developmental secondary players. We have those guys. We have developmental secondary players. So let's bring in some people that aren't the elite talent that you want. But there were a lot of corners this year that are playing well that we could have picked up that we chose not to. Let's get a couple of those guys. Let's get 1 or 2 of the veterans that come in. And even if our guys that we're developing end up hitting and we don't have to play the veterans, we have them. We've seen that we're suffering from injuries. So if we have some veteran guys in the background, what does that hurt?
Absolutely nothing.
Yeah, so Jimmy Garoppolo has to play, and we have to do something with defensive talent recruitment because it is not happening. Something is wrong there. Something's wrong.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, guys, that's our podcast, and I had a great time talking about the Niners and all that kind of stuff, and I'm still optimistic about the season. I still feel good about the Niners. And I'm excited to watch us play, not this weekend, but the next week. I love you, Wyatt.
Love you, Dad.
Okay, bye.
Bye.